Okay, hello and welcome to another lesson. So this is applications 1.1 and let's have a look and see where we are. So we've previously looked at area of a triangle and we've looked at the sine rule. And so now we're going to move on to the cosine rule, and that's really going to be our focus for this week. So here is the formula for the cosine rule. You can see them here. It's given to you in two forms. Okay, so there's the form on the left-hand side, a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. That's one way to have the formula. And there's this rearranged form on the right-hand side, cos a equals b squared plus c squared minus a squared over 2bc. Okay, and just to remind you, this triangle just reminds you what we mean by A, B, and C here. So A, B, and C are the sides of a triangle. And when we're talking about like the capital letter A, that's going to be this angle here that is opposite the side labeled A. So we're going to use the capital letter A to be the angle that is opposite the angle A. And again, just in the same way that the capital C would be opposite the small c, and this angle up here would be marked as capital B. Okay, today's lesson we're going to look just at this formula. So we're just going to focus on one at a time, and this is today's lesson here. You're given both these formulae in the exam. Okay, so actually what you can see on this screen here is just me copying and pasting from a past paper. This is exactly the way it looks when they give you the formula in the test. In order to use it, you need to know three sides and an angle. Now, one of those things will be what you're trying to find out. But in order to use the cosine rule, you've got to have or be trying to find one of the three sides. You need all three sides and you need an angle, or you need to be trying to find an angle. So let's just have a look at that in practice. So this is actually a past paper question here. You can see this came from the 2017 paper. Paper 2, so you're allowed to use a calculator. And again, we've got one side, two sides, and we've been asked to find PR, so we've been asked to find this side here. I'm just going to label this side X, just to make it easier to refer to. So we'll call this side X, and what we have is an angle, and this angle is opposite this side we're trying to find, and that's important. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is write out our formula, which is going to be a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc and then cos a. Again, this is the formula that's given to you. You don't need to memorize this. What is important is that you understand that the A, this side A, must be opposite to the angle that we know. Okay? So the side A is the side that's opposite the angle that you know. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rewrite this formula, but I'm going to substitute in the different things. So we're going to call this side A, we're going to call this side B, and call this side C, and this is angle A. And again, the reason this side is A is because it's opposite the angle that we know. Okay, so that's going to become x squared is equal to 8 squared plus 3 squared minus 2 times 8. So 2 times b times c would be 2 times 8 times 3. And then that's multiplied by, instead of cos A, we're going to write cos 120. Now, if this is obviously paper 2, you've got a calculator, and what I would suggest is at this point you get your calculator out and you actually type 8 squared plus 3 squared minus 2 times 8 times 3 times cos 120. And if you hit equals there, you're going to find that that equals 97. And so we've worked out the value of x squared. Now just be careful, that's x squared. We actually want to know the value of x. So to find the value of x, we're going to do x is going to be the square root of 97. And again, this is a calculator paper, so you can use this. Okay. We've not been told to round it to any particular thing, so we'll just use three significant figures. So to three significant figures, it's going to be 9.85. We'll include our units as well. So this is in centimetres. So our unit for our answer is going to be centimetres. Okay, and that, in a nutshell, is how you use the cosine rule to find a missing side. You copy down the formula you're given it, you substitute, and then you simply work it out by using the square root function. Just in case you're wondering about this, I've used this quite a lot, but this just means that approximately equals to. Okay, so if you see that in the solutions, that means that this thing up here is roughly equal to this thing here. In other words, we've rounded it. Okay, so let's do a slightly different question. Again, this is a past paper question. This one came from the 2018 paper. Okay, you'll notice that this time it's a paper one paper question. So this means that you're not actually allowed to use a calculator in this situation. So the first thing we're going to do is write down our formula. A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Okay, now let's have a little think about this. We don't actually have the missing angle. What we're told is that cos z, okay, so if we call this capital Z, cos Z equals 1/8. We don't know what Z is, but we know that cos Z is 1/8. But that's fine because, right, if we think of this as being an angle that we know about and we've been asked to find XY, so we've been asked to find this side, we can label this side A and call this B and C. And let's just see what happens when we do that. So A squared is X squared, B squared is 10 squared, C squared is 8 squared, minus 2 times B times C, well, that's just 2 times 10 times 8. And at this point, we'd normally times by cos, and then we times by cos, and then whatever this angle here was, whatever cos Z was. But in this case, we've been told that cos Z is 1/8. So because we've been told what cos Z actually is, we can just use that straight away in this formula. We can just times by 1/8. So again, you can see b squared becomes that, c squared becomes that, 2 just stays as 2, b becomes 10, c becomes 8, and then cos a just becomes 1/8. And again, that's just as using this here. Okay, and then from here, it's just a case of working this out. That's 100 plus 64. We've got minus 2, we've got 2 times 10 times 8, so that's going to be 160. It's going to be minus 160 times an eighth. Okay. So again, we can just simplify this further and further. So this is going to be 164 minus 160 times an eighth is going to be 20. So that's going to equal 144. Again, I've gone quite quickly through that working out, but you would just take your time to slowly work through that. All we're doing is squaring numbers, which you know how to do. Again, this is 160 times an eighth, so that's the same as 160 divided by 8. And again, we're here. Notice that this value, 144, is the value of x squared. So to find x, we're just going to take the square root of 144. That's one of the square roots, one of the square numbers you'd be expected to know. Okay, so you're expected to know the first 12 square numbers. So 12 squared is 144. Again, let's not forget our units. This is centimetres because we're given centimetres in the question. Again, notice that the process is the same. First thing we do is find the formula. Second thing we do is substitute. And then the third thing after we've simplified is just to take the square root. Okay, so again, here's a different question. Often they'll try and put, questions into some sort of context. So here we've got a context about a piece of land is in the shape of a triangle. The owner wishes to build a fence along QR. Whenever I see that, I just automatically just go and put an X next to the side they're talking about. Because if I know I'm, going to have to find it, I'm just going to label it X straight away. Calculate the length of the fence. So it's important that we pay attention to the question. The fence is not the perimeter around the field or the piece of land. The fence is just the length of QR. Okay, because of what it says here, fence along the side QR. Okay, so don't get confused with that. We are just finding the value of X. And again, we're going to do this in the same way as we've previously done it. A squared is B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos A. Again, we can substitute. We know that the X is going to be the A because it's opposite the angle. We know we can label these sides B and C. Running out of space here, so I'm just going to continue down here. Cos 147. Again, I'd encourage you to pause at this point and see whether you can just work out the answer. This is just going to be me going through the motions now of typing this into a calculator. Okay, so that's what I've worked out when I've typed that into the calculator there. And of course, we need to square root that answer. Okay, so yeah, don't get scared when you see this because obviously this is quite a large number. We're square rooting it. It's going to bring it down to something sensible. This is 250. This is 180. This is the larger side, so something around 400 makes perfect sense. Again, we need to round this to significant figures because it's not give us a, it's not said one decimal place or anything like that. So I'm just going to do it to 3 significant figures. And I'm going to use my units, which are meters in this case. Again, notice that this is paper 2, so we're allowed to use the calculator in this question. And in fact, we're going to need to use the calculator to work out cosine 147. Okay, so this is the exercise that I want you guys to do. So pause the video and have a go at these 3 questions. In each one, what I want you to do is work out the value of X. And at this point, I'm going to give you a bit of a clue for the third one. You need this angle in order to use the cosine rule for the third one. And so for that reason, you're going to have to use these 2 angles to try and work out that third angle. Okay, so I hope you all paused and had a go there. Just to put the answers up, this would be 5.9, 2.6, and that'd be 11.8. Okay, and again, remember this question asks you to round to 1 decimal place. Okay. Okay, fantastic. Well, I will see you next time for more of this.